What is going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel, and it's been a little bit, guys. This week has been very crazy with the holiday and just me kind of being a bit lazy, I guess you could say. But I'm here. I'm ready to talk The Mandalorian, Episode 4, Sanctuary. Now, I've watched this episode twice. I did watch it yesterday, but yesterday I was very busy, Black Friday, all that good stuff, spending time with family. So I figured I'd come on here tonight, talk about The Mandalorian Episode 4, the things that I liked about this episode, and what I kind of think is going to kind of start happening moving forward. So it's going to be not just a review video, but also maybe getting into some predictions. And by the way, I will be talking about spoilers for this episode. So if you have not watched this episode of The Mandalorian, why don't you go click off and go watch that episode and then come right back here and watch this video. Go check out all of my other videos as well, because I do a lot more content than just Mandalorian and Star Wars talk. Anyway, as well, for those of you who are joining me live, you guys can go ahead to the chat bar right over there. Go put in your thoughts of this episode of The Mandalorian. Let's have a little bit of a discussion. So let me get into the things that I really enjoyed about this episode. I'm also going to get into some negatives. Overall, this was a good episode of the Mandalorian. This was not a phenomenal episode. It was nowhere near episode 3 to me, but it felt a lot like another adventure that we get to see this character on. It was very similar to episode 2 of the series, The Child. So the one thing that I really liked about this episode that kind of made me even more impressed with the scope of this show is the world building. And this world that they're on in this episode, I cannot remember the name of it. I just watched it, and I know it starts with an S, but I cannot remember to save my life. But yeah, so sorry about that. I really love the look and feel of this world, because it feels like it's almost taking place in my backyard. Very wooded area. It feels very like Oregon trees, or even going to the East Coast and having that kind of feel of kind of the trees and nature in the forest. And I really love that setting, because there hasn't been a lot of that in the Star Wars lore since Endor. Endor in episode 6. You could say that in episode 7, the planet where they had Starkiller Base was wooded, but it was all covered in snow. So we couldn't see the green. We couldn't see the beautiful trees. We couldn't get this foresty look. The last time we had a look like this was in Endor for episode 6 in Return of the Jedi. So I really like that feel that it takes us a little bit back into almost an Endor-like world. And what I also love about that is that they talk about Endor in this episode. They specifically talk about how this female character, played by Gina Carino, she plays a rebel soldier who is retired, and one of her missions, she was on Endor. So that's a really nice little wink and nod to the audience. And when you're feeling this landscape throughout this entire episode, it really does feel like it's taking you back to Endor. I love the fact that we get a nice colony of people, of these farmers, because it's, again, taking us back to the roots of what we love about Star Wars. Luke Skywalker, he was a farmer. And having these Krill farmers, it makes it feel like Star Wars is kind of becoming centered in the fact that this show takes place within the Star Wars universe, and it never loses its thunder and never loses that identity that the show has with the Star Wars lore. I also really love Baby Yoda. I mean, every single episode, he just gets cuter and cuter to me. I don't know what it is, but I am instantly hooked on the screen every time he is present. And I love the scene where you have Gina Carano. I'm probably pronouncing her name wrong. I'm the worst with names. And you have the Mandalorian. They're fighting, and they're kind of just having like a little bit of a wrestling match. And you get to see Baby Yoda coming over, and he's sipping on his broth, which was one of the funniest and cutest things that I've seen so far in this show, because they're able to take Baby Yoda and they're able to somehow increase the level of cuteness. Every single episode, it just feels like he gets cuter and cuter. It's like, oh, you thought last week's episode that Baby Yoda was really cute. We'll show you a thing or two. Let's show you what we can do. So I really like that. This episode was directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. I will say there's a little bit of a negative with her directing in this episode, but one of the positives to take away from her directing in this episode, it never felt to me like it was a first-time director directing this. It felt like she had a little bit of craftsmanship. She knew exactly where she wanted to take this episode. She knew exactly how to make it feel like it was present within the Star Wars universe and Star Wars lore. And it never felt to me that she was someone who was underdeveloped as a director in a live action setting. Kind of like I felt with Dave Filoni in episode 1, where I felt like it a little bit at times got a little too animated to my liking. But this episode really kind of shows that Bryce Dallas Howard, she can really direct. She can put a craft to a project, and especially a project like this that is so beloved and so eccentric, because you already have an established story, but how can you build upon that established story and make people fall in love with these characters and fall in love with the setting and the landscape that you're trying to provide? So it was very interesting to see the directing here by Bryce Dallas Howard, because again, I thought she did a really good job. There is one slight negative that I do have with her directing, but I'll get into that when I talk about the negatives. One of the other positives of this episode is that ATST Walker and that awesome red light within the pretty much the windows of the ATST that kind of makes it look like a face. That was awesome. I love the fact that they add that into this episode, and again, it helps trap us inside of this world, and basically having them tell us, remember, this is Star Wars. We are going to do things that are a wink and nod, that you remember and know that, yes, even though that this show is very separate, it takes place within the Star Wars universe and around the Star Wars context. So I really love the ATST look to it in this episode. I thought it looked really nice, and it was just something that I didn't quite expect, but I'm really happy that we got. I will also say, for my last positive of this episode, I really like the chemistry that they continue to build with the character of the Mandalorian. The way that he expresses himself, the way that we can feel the way he is feeling, even though we cannot see his face. That is one of the greatest acting tools Pedro Pascal has given us. And it's really shown that not just anybody could play this role. You really have to be crafted as an actor and special in the fact that you can portray emotion without anybody ever seeing your face. That is something so hard to do, but you understand based on body language, based on the way he constructs his sentences, his wording, his posture. You can tell the way that this character is feeling. And that is something that I think is so amazing about this show. And I just love the fact that they're building up the chemistry between us and our love that we have for this character. And the Mandalorian, his chemistry with other characters, not just Baby Yoda, but with Gina Carano's character, with the Widow, the Widow, and the chemistry and the dynamic that both of them had in this episode. It was really, really palpable, and I just absolutely loved the fact that we got this whole eccentric dynamic and this amazing chemistry between Pedro Pascal, the Mandalorian, and these characters that interact with him on an episodic basis. So let me get into a little bit of my negatives. There's not a lot. There's just a couple. My problem with Bryce Dallas Howard directing this episode, everything looks a little too polished And what I mean by that is there has been a specific tone. The first 3 episodes, they feel very complete. They feel like they go together and blend very nicely. This episode kind of feels like the odd one out of the bunch. It feels a little at times like everything is lit to its possible extreme. And I'm not that's again, that's not the problem of the director. That could be, editing problems. That could just be maybe the set pieces and the way that the set kind of looked. It could have been the location and how much light was kind of coming into the camera and in the focus. But to me, as a director, you really have to, especially of a television show, because TV shows, you have different directors on an episodic basis. You have to be able to make your episode blend in naturally and seamlessly with the other episodes. And I felt like this episode was different. It felt like the tone was never quite the same as it was in the first 3 episodes. I don't know what it was, but at times I just felt like I was watching a subsidiary story that was kind of apart from the main series, the first 3 episodes of this show. And even watching it a second time, I noticed it a little bit even more, where it kind of got a little bit annoying because I want it to feel seamless. I want it to feel like it all naturally progresses and it all naturally flows together, because that's what a TV show should do. One of the best shows that I'm trying to kind of one of the best examples of a show that does this is Arrow. Even though every episode is pretty much the same, you can feel that this show has one kind of long stretch of legitimacy where the entire show feels like it all blends together naturally. And this episode just didn't feel that for me personally. And I feel like a little bit of that responsibility was on Bryce Dallas Howard, because as a director, the one thing you can do for this show and for any show when you're on an episodic basis and you have different directors is you have to make sure your episode flows very well and cohesively with the other episodes that precede it. Another negative for me, another down note for me, I think, for this episode was I didn't really like the Raiders all that much. They didn't really bring anything new. It just felt like we were watching something that we've seen before. And I want my Star Wars to feel new. Yes, I love those homages. I love those winks and nods. But at times, it doesn't work. And having these Raiders, they don't really bring anything new. They weren't a threat at all. And I want there to be a little bit more of a threat. I feel like a lot of this show so far, even though it's been awesome and I've really been loving it, my one big criticism is that everything just almost feels easy, that things just kind of fall into the characters' laps a little bit. And I'm really excited for where they could go next for this show, because we've only really seen the Mandalorian either one, win a battle, or two, kind of get lucky and have the chips fall at the right time. And I want there to be a little bit more pushback. I want there to be a little bit more resistance to the Mandalorian as a character, because that will help us have more love and feel that there's more risk being involved in this show and involved with the character of the Mandalorian, and especially with Baby Yoda, because we don't want Baby Yoda to be in peril, but we know that nothing bad could truly happen, because so far everything has kind of fallen into the lap of the Mandalorian. And so, again, you want the hero to succeed. I'm not saying that the hero should fail, but I do want there to be a little bit of a pushback. I don't want it to be so easy. And I feel like sometimes as fans of something, we're very complacent with having something be easy and something that can make sure that our characters are the people that we love and that we're rooting behind, everything falls into place. But you want pushback. That's what I'm trying to say in a nutshell. I know I'm rambling on and I'm saying the same thing over and over again, But anyway, guys, this was a very good episode of The Mandalorian. It's not my favorite. Right now, if I had to rank all the episodes, episode 3 is number 1. Episode 1 is number 2. And then probably episode 2 would be number 3, and this would be number 4. But that doesn't mean that I don't like this episode. I really like it. I love the fact that Bryce Dallas Howard came in and did a really good job crafting a story, or crafting really an episode in the Star Wars universe, and showing that she really has some chops. I think if she was able to make it a little bit more cohesive, I would really praise her and really glorify this episode. But the fact is, I never really felt like this episode was as cohesive as the other 3 episodes. So those are my general thoughts on this episode of The Mandalorian. Again, solid episode. And I really enjoyed it. I love what they're doing with the character of the Mandalorian. I love that there's still mystery behind the helmet, I guess you could say, even though I know what Pedro Pascal looks like. If you want to know what the Mandalorian looks like behind the underneath the helmet, go type in Pedro Pascal and you'll see a picture of him. And he's a good looking dude. So yeah, I know exactly what he looks like. So if you're wondering what the Mandalorian looks like behind that helmet, definitely go type in Pedro Pascal's name and you'll be able to see images. But I do like the fact that they are hiding certain elements. I do like the fact that we get to see him take off the helmet, but obviously they do that kind of mysterious shot where you only get to really see his back and you don't ever get to even see his neck or anything like that. So I love the fact that they're still kind of keeping things hidden to us as audience members, because who knows, maybe Pedro Pascal looks different, probably, but yeah, it's just very interesting to me. So I'm going to get to your guys' comments and True Horror Fanatic Reviews. I see you changed your name, man. That's cool. Hey, man, did you enjoy this episode? Yes, I enjoyed this episode very much. It was a really good episode. Was it fantastic? No, but it was a solid episode. I do feel like we're moving around a lot, which is good, but at the same time, it causes a little bit of concern for me, because I just feel like there isn't really a fixture on what the show is really about. I know what it's about, but I feel like at times, because we're moving around so rapidly and so fast, it just feels like we can't really get involved or too connected with these characters at times. That's another one of my, I guess, negatives, but I really did enjoy this episode. Clayton Hansen, how's it going, buddy? Just tuning in now. We watched this tonight, and it was awesome. I love the message sent in this episode of being willing to protect those you love. Yeah, and that's a really good point, Clayton. Yeah, it's a really powerful message. And, I think that we are seeing more of this father-son type of dynamic between the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, where he feels like he really needs to protect this child because he does care for him. Is it love? I think it's a little too early. It's a little too premature to think that, but I do feel like we are getting to that point where this character is really feeling love for Baby Yoda and for this child that he must protect and take care of, and make sure that nothing impedes this kid from having a childhood and growing up. Yeah, I love the episode. You get to know more about the Mandalorian and why he has his helmet on all the time and the consequences of showing his face to another person. Yes, I thought that was really nice that they did that, because that's the question that the audience is asking. And that's what I love. I love when you do that. Like, there's something in film and in television, mostly in film, that I like to kind of say. I like to be told a little bit about context and a little bit about what's going on, but I don't want to be like force-fed. I don't want them to shove everything down my throat on what the purpose is, why we're here, what's happening. And so them kind of revealing this, something that we've already felt, and any of us who like read a lot of Star Wars lore and Star Wars canon, the Mandalorians, it is in their religion. They do not take off their helmets, and if they take them off in front of anyone, then they can never put it back on. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, it's a symbol. And once that symbol has been corrupted, or once that symbol has been, what's the word that I'm looking for? I had it just in my head. That symbol has been, yeah, we'll just say corrupted for now. I can't think of what the word was. It was in my head and I completely lost it. But once that symbol has been corrupted, it no longer holds value. And so, and the Mandalorians also keep themselves as very guarded people. They're very shielded in a lot of their ways. And so, them showing their faces is a sign of weakness, and it's also a sign of showing emotion, which they try to kind of keep down and inside. So it's very interesting. I definitely go read into more Mandalorian lore if you're interested. But yes, I really like the fact that this episode they teach us a little bit more about the Mandalorian and their religion and why they have to have their helmets on always, and why if they take them off in front of other people, it could be detrimental to that character and change the entire purpose of that Mandalorian and their nature and their life. And you got to think too. I mean, he was a foundling. You know, he was a young child when his parents were murdered in the Clone Wars, and so for years he's had that helmet. It's kind of always been that like safeguard from the rest of the world. And so for him to take it off in front of other people, I think would be, it's not an easy thing to do because it's just your way of life. You get used to it. Like the saying, this is the way. That's the way. That's the way. There is no other way. Like you have to live and abide by the Mandalorian code, or else, you know, you can never be a Mandalorian. And your symbol doesn't mean anything. Something to consider. This one is called Sanctuary. Perhaps the look was different because the location was a lot more peaceful. Yeah, I could see that, Clayton. I see your point, and you know, maybe that's a valuable point. I didn't really think about it that way per se. That's a really good. That's a good argument. That's a good argument, Clayton. I will say though that even if that is the reason for why it feels different, they should be able to still make it consistent and have a little bit of that difference and have a little bit of that kind of straying of the path that we've already been on, but it shouldn't feel out of place completely. And that's what I kind of get from this episode, is that it just feels a little bit out of place. And that is just one thing that I could never really kind of get around. I felt like I was watching something else at times. And then obviously when the AT-ST Walker comes in and you see Baby Yoda, you're like, okay, it's Star Wars. I know that. But again, it's just, it felt odd to me that it felt inconsistent with where the other three episodes have kind of left us. But that's a good point, Clayton. I never thought about it that way. So, and maybe that was the reason for it. And maybe if, you know, Jon Favreau gets asked that question, maybe he'll say that, and that's totally fine. Or if Bryce Dallas Howard has that question posed to her, maybe she'll say that answer, because that I never thought about that. But I see why consistency is important. Yeah, it's important. It's really important because you're essentially, we look at seasons of television as like, some of us look at them as like individual stories, but it's not that. It's one continuous story that takes place over a longer stretch of time than a feature film. And so unless you have a show that is completely different, like Black Mirror, where every episode is different. Sorry, I don't know why. There we go. What was I saying? Oh yeah, Black Mirror, that's a show where every episode has to be different. So there is no consistency. And American Horror Story, like every season is different, but it's its own story. This has to feel like, if you're trying to say that this is the definitive Mandalorian television show, this is a story about the Mandalorian, a man that we don't know a lot about, who's very mysterious, who's protecting this asset, Baby Yoda, from bounty hunters who are, or from corrupt people who want to use the metachlorians. That's what I would say right now. I even though metachlorians are kind of like shunned out of Star Wars, really, for Disney's sake, we're just going to call them metachlorians for now. To extract metachlorians in order to, you know, manipulate them or use them, you have to have consistency. You cannot have episodes that feel out of place. And if you notice, the best television shows are able to tell the best singular story within however many seasons. And because it's all consistent, there is no, well, here we have this episode, and then, 4 episodes down the line, we're going to have a kind of a different oddball episode. Stranger Things tried doing that in season 2, and it did not work. And a lot of people hated that episode. I was one of them. And so and I'm not saying that I hated this episode. I'm not saying that they tried to go completely I'm not trying to compare it to Stranger Things season 2. We're comparing apples to freaking broccoli, but it needs to be consistent. This needs to be consistent. You're telling a story. Essentially, we're acting, even though we know that season 2 is coming, but we're acting as if there's only one season of this show. You got to be consistent in your storytelling, and it's got to feel like it flows together. Yeah, this was clearly an homage to High Plains Drifter, training a bunch of lackeys to defend their home. High Plains Drifter. I don't think I've ever heard of that. Is that like a movie? I'm kind of interested in that, True Horror Fanatic. Is that like a movie? It is. I felt like one small nitpick. I understand that you train all of those, all of the villagers there, but why did it feel like they just trained them for 5 minutes and then all of a sudden everything was good? Anybody else feel that way? I mean, yes, it's a quick episode, but it just felt like the training montage was literally like 5 minutes. Like it was a span of just like maybe an hour of time, and all of a sudden they can go up against these raiders. I mean, I don't know. It was I'm nitpicking again. This is a small nitpick, and you can nitpick to death these aspects of this episode, but I just kind of got that vibe a little bit that like, it could have been a little longer. If we had a really long scene in episode 2 of The Mandalorian and my favorite character, one of my favorite characters in this show, I Have Spoken. If we see a huge long scene of them, having this montage of fixing the ship, then why the heck do we have just a small, like 5-minute feel of a montage of these villagers, these farmers, learning how to defend themselves? Pretty interesting. Just a thought, and it's a nitpick. You guys can disagree with me. I'm all for that. I thought Baby Yoda was going to use the Force to stop the blast from that sniper at the end. That would have been awesome. That would have been really, really cool. I would have really liked that, but I'm kind of happy that they didn't go that route. And the reason why I say that is because even though he is strong with the Force, obviously, I don't want it to become a continuous loop of him having to use the Force and having the characters rely on his ability to use the Force in order for things to make everything a happy ending. And I also feel like him as a child, he's Force sensitive. Like, because little kids, essentially, when babies, they're perfect. They're perfect beings. They don't know what's right and what's wrong. And so Baby Yoda is going to be probably more sensitive than someone who is old enough to know what is the difference between right and wrong. But I don't know how Baby Yoda would have been able to sense that per se. I mean, not unless he would have had the training or kind of the understanding of the Force in order to do that. But it would have been a really cool thing. I would have been really okay with it, to be honest. Yeah, it's a movie starring Clint Eastwood. He's training a town, and yes, LOL. It was like one day They turned into warlords. I get that. Yeah, man. Again, it's just a small nitpick. It's not one of my major issues or major gripes with the episode, but it is something that you have to be mindful of and think of, because it's like essentially you're trying to say that over the span of 5 minutes they were able to overpower and have a stronghold over these raiders. Interesting. It's interesting, and yeah, it's one of those things that, like, to me, it's kind of it's small, where when I'm watching the episode, I'm not really going to be thinking about it a lot, but it's one thing that I did notice. It just kind of felt very short. So yeah, thanks guys, for discussing any of your thoughts on this episode down at in the live chat. If you guys still want to talk, we can continue to discuss more about this episode. I wanted to keep this live stream kind of short, relatively, like under maybe 45 minutes, just because I do have some things that I need to take care of for the channel. And on that note, let me just get off of Star Wars for a second and explain to you why I have not uploaded my Frozen 2 review. So I have watched Frozen 2. I watched it on Tuesday. I was a little bit late because my wife had she had surgery, and so she was recovering and everything like that. And with all of the COPA stuff happening, and I don't want to make this a big discussion about COPA. I really just want to bring this up to you so you guys understand where I'm coming from. I do have the Frozen 2 review shot. It's all recorded. It's long. I think it's like one of my longest reviews, but I haven't even started editing it or anything. But I haven't really been motivated to edit and upload the video. And the reason is because of the whole COPA thing. I am frustrated, like a lot of YouTubers, about this whole idea that the FTC wants to pretty much say that anything involving animated characters or using the word fun, oops, now I'm going to get flagged and I'm going to have to pay $42,000 on this video. Good luck to them trying to get $42,000 from me, because I ain't paying it. But pretty much anything that deals with animated characters in an animated setting. Now, I make videos for the general audience, okay? What does that mean exactly? What is a general audience? Well, it means any age from a kid to an adult. It doesn't matter what the age range is. I don't cuss in my videos because I choose not to. It's something that I've really been trying to do, so that way I can be, because I have family and friends that watch my videos, and I live a certain lifestyle where I don't feel comfortable with using profanities and certain extensive dialogue within a situation. And it's something that I've chosen to do, and I've tried to set myself up so that way I can be more respected by others and respect others as well. And I don't mind other people doing it in their videos. Like, that's fine. I watch movies. I watch R-rated films. Like, I'm not perfect or anything like that, and I'm not trying to say that I am, but I have done a lot of reviews on animated films, and I enjoy animated movies just as much as I enjoy live action movies. And movies, to me, are a medium that anyone can enjoy from any specific genre, any specific target age range, I guess you could say. And so I haven't really been motivated to edit and upload my Frozen 2 review because of the COPA crap that's happening and all the just stupid things that YouTubers are having to deal with. And it's really kind of made me second guess a lot of the decisions that I've kind of been making for my channel and kind of where I want to go. My content will never get where it's just for mature people. Like, that's not me. That's not who I am. And for me to even entertain that idea, it's blasphemous to everything that I established this channel for. And I want to talk about things that I love, and I want to do it in the context that I want to do it in. And I don't want to have to change because some government issued um, or some government protected and government branch of people tell me that I need to make my videos appealing to the mature audience. I'm not going to do that to satisfy them. I'm not going to quit YouTube. Nothing is going to happen with my channel. But it has really kind of turned me off a little bit on making reviews for animated films, and it's sad. And it's not to do with animated movies, and I'm still going to watch them. And I'm going to post my Frozen 2 review. Don't worry, I will put it up on the channel. It will be up hopefully by tomorrow. But I haven't been motivated because of all of these issues with COPA and the FTC. And I don't want to make this a big deal, but I kind of just want to be transparent with you guys. I want you guys to understand why I've been maybe a little bit lazy or a little bit hesitant over the past like 4 or 5 days, because I watched the movie on Tuesday and I said that Wednesday I'd have a review on my channel. And honestly, it's just because I'm not motivated to deal with all of this COPA issues and having to basically say, hey, look, this is not for children and not for kids. It is specifically for a general audience. And so I just want to be transparent with you guys, because honestly, I love the fact that I have people on my live chat right now talking to me and discussing Star Wars, which it really is the thing that got me to love film so much. And yeah, I'm just so grateful for you guys, and I just want to be transparent, and I just want to be open and honest, and that's all you're ever going to get from me is honesty. I'm never going to say something because it's the cool thing to say. I'm never going to say, well, I like, this is my #1 movie because everyone else has it as their #1 movie of the year. I'm always going to tell you my honest and my open thoughts about something, and you'll never get me to kind of say the popular thing or kind of turn my channel into, a popular clickbaity thing. Could I have more subscribers if I did it in a clickbaity type of route, or if I did say the popular things? Yeah, probably, but I don't really care. Honestly, I don't. So anyway, let's just stop talking about that. I don't want to get on a rant. I don't want to, this isn't the purpose of the video, but I just want to be transparent and open with you guys. So we got some more comments. How was that widowed mother so good with the gun? Did I miss something there? I have no idea. They didn't go into detail about it. They didn't specify. I'm thinking that maybe she had some training from the Imperials. Maybe she wasn't, training with the Imperial Academy, and maybe she was able to pick up some things on how to shoot, how to use weapons. Very interesting, though. That's a very interesting point, True Horror Fanatic. I thought that, but it never crossed my mind to talk about it because it was something interesting. Again, another thing you can nitpick. How does she know how to be so accurate with a gun? How does she know how to shoot a gun with that precision? I can't say the word precision. Thank you. Precision. I'm just thanking myself. It's stupid. I'm like losing my mind, guys. It's been a while since I've made a live stream, obviously, but with that precision, I don't know. I have no idea. You didn't miss anything. I just watched the episode again. They never mention it. So we'll see. I think that she's going to play a part of it. This colony, this group of people are going to play a part in this show moving forward. What is that capacity going to be? I don't know. But very interesting point, True Horror Fanatic. Thank you for bringing that up. He grew a beard. Are you talking about me? I've had a beard. Well, I guess maybe it looks a little bit longer. It's coming in a little bit nicer. Yeah, I've had a beard now for probably the last like month and a half, 2 months or so. Yeah, my wife's not a big fan of it, but I like it a lot. So thank you for noticing. It's nice. I really like it. Like the thing about a beard that I really like is I just like the fact that it just looks stylish. Like you can do more things when you have a beard, like it just, I don't know. To me, it's like a really cool thing to have a beard, and it just makes you feel like you're a man, I guess you could say. But the thing that sucks about it is the freaking it's kind of scraggly, and like it can hurt at times. Like for example, like if I itch it or like kind of play with it a little bit, like the hairs are I think a little bit more fragile, and so more pain can definitely be caused by having a beard. But thank you, Numenoid, for noticing. I can't believe you didn't notice really before, but I guess maybe it's just kind of grown in a lot more since the last time you guys saw me on video, which was okay. Why is my light being stupid? Okay, there we go, guys. Isn't live streaming awesome? I mean, you have to deal with just the the atrocity that is lighting and dealing with me saying and like and a bunch of times. I mean, isn't this fun, guys? Isn't this fun? Did you notice how the ATST was ineffective against people on the ground? It blasted near everybody, but nothing. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like the stormtroopers. Stormtroopers are ineffective against everyone. They miss more than anybody. I don't think I've ever really seen stormtroopers have a moment in time where they were so accurate. Like even in episode 7, when they take out an entire colony of people at the beginning of episode 7, what's hilarious about it is it takes them so many shots. Like they're just really bad with accuracy with their blasters. And to me, that's what it reminded me of, the ATST. Yeah, it was pretty ineffective, but it's also, I mean, you have to think about it this way too. The Raiders must have gotten it from, the fall of the Empire, and maybe an ATST was kind of just left there, or maybe they were able to scavenge it somehow, because they kind of make it out like they're scavengers. They go and they basically excuse me, they basically steal from other people in other colonies, so they probably stole it. And so they probably don't have a lot of experience in it, to be honest. I mean, when have they really had to use that ever? Probably not a lot, probably. I mean, maybe to scare villages, but I mean, they haven't really had to use it for accuracy. So, yeah, interesting point though. Yeah, it just reminds me of the stormtroopers. I mean, they're terrible shooters. It's a nitpick of mine. Okay, yeah, and that's the thing, is we can all have nitpicks. That's the great thing about subjectivity is we all have nitpicks in different things. Well, yeah, but when Chewie blasted the troopers on the ground, he blasted near the other troopers on the ground, and the blast radius took them out. But when Chewie blasted the troopers on the ground, he blasted near the other troopers on the ground, and the blast radius took them out. Okay. I don't necessarily remember what specific scene you're talking about from what episode. Are you talking about episode 7? So I'm trying to think. I'm trying to put it in my brain because I know there's been a lot of times Return of the Jedi on Endor. Are you talking about on Endor? Because Endor would probably be the only thing that makes sense for me, or to me. It's got to be on Endor, right? I'm trying to make out the scene in my head. I just watched Return of the Jedi, Return of the Jedi. Like, I just watched it like a year ago. I'm gonna watch it obviously leading up to episode 9. When he took over the ATST. Oh, I got you. Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Sorry, I thought you were talking about like Chewie's crossbow. I was like, I couldn't quite get your drift, but okay, I get what you're saying now. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we'd have to assume that all the ATSTs are the same. True Horror Fanatic. And there's different models for sure. So to me, that ATST looked like a very classic Empire Strikes Back model of the ATST. And we do know that there's models of different machinery and equipment that the Empire used, and they had newer models that were more effective. So maybe just the model in Return of the Jedi was a newer model that was able to have more of a blast radius over an entire group of stormtroopers. But again, this is kind of just semantics we're talking about. I mean, it just really it depends on the model and the make of that ATST. Then again, they are troopers who were taken out by rocks. So there's, yeah, I mean, yeah, we're talking about stormtroopers who are pretty stupid. I mean, the Ewoks, man, I love the Ewoks. I don't care what anybody says. I freaking love the Ewoks. Yeah, I love the Ewoks. They took them out with rocks, and stormtroopers are just not very bright in the slightest. And that's why the old adage of the way that the stormtroopers were made and kind of that army was built in episode 7 kind of erased that they did something different with this new order of stormtroopers to make them more effective. They are pretty weak. A breeze can knock them over. Yeah, I mean, honestly, a breeze really could knock them over. And that's one thing that we do know about Star Wars is that they have been known to have their stormtroopers be horribly, horribly weak. And that's what I love about Star Wars, though. I love it. I love picking on stormtroopers. I love the fact that we have like very clumsy and very dim-witted antagonists, like to build upon how smart and amazing Darth Vader is, because I will never say Darth Vader is dumb, because Darth Vader is the greatest character of all time in any film, entertainment, media, outlet, whatever. Darth Vader is the greatest character of all time. And if anybody disagrees with me, you're wrong and you are crazy. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic, but I'm being serious when I say Darth Vader is the greatest character ever created on any medium ever. Period. End of story. End of story. I just have a huge love for Darth Vader. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, because I'll tell you more about that love that I have for Darth Vader, because I will be reviewing the original trilogy. And yes, I know I've said this 5,000 times, but I will be definitely putting up a New Hope review at least by Monday. By Monday, with a surety, there is going to be a New Hope review on this channel. So, again, if you're new, subscribe. And make sure you guys stay up to date with everything that I'm doing on my channel. And if you're interested in my Frozen 2 review, it'll be up at least by tomorrow. I cannot guarantee it's going to be up tonight. I, again, have some other things that I'm reworking. I went Black Friday shopping, bought a lot of like video games and stuff, so I've been kind of busy playing those. But you know what? Everyone needs a break. Everyone needs to relax and kind of have some time off from making a lot of content. Make sure you guys drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and yeah, show some love. It really means a lot when you guys drop a like on the video. It shows that I'm doing a good job and that you enjoy the content that I'm putting out there. And I was going to get into predictions moving forward. This stream did run a little bit long, which is okay. I'm happy to answer your guys' questions and your feedback and have a discussion with you guys. It's all about you guys, and that is the most important thing, and the most important takeaway for you guys is that my live streams are for you. And so I will definitely do a separate companion video with this one, and I will be going more into predictions and maybe even talking a little bit more about this past episode. That'll be out sometime this week, probably like Wednesday or Thursday. I'm also going to have an Irishman review on this channel. Haven't watched it yet. Haven't had 3.5 hours of time to watch it. You know, over the past couple of days with Thanksgiving and everything else. I mean, I've just been really busy spending time with family, spending time with friends, which is what I should be doing. And so I will have a review of The Irishman on this channel within probably the next couple of days as well. And then also, yeah, am I going to see A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood? Yes. Am I going to review it on this channel? Probably in one of my episodes of That's a Wrap, which I did not do an episode this past week. I am fully aware that I didn't do it. Some things kind of came up and kind of took me out of doing That's a Wrap, but I will be back this week with another episode of That's a Wrap. A lot of content coming. Marriage Story review is going to be up. I mean, guys, I have a lot of stuff to do, and I'm excited. I love it. I love talking movies with you guys. I love talking Star Wars with you guys. So, again, thank you so much for tuning into this live stream. Those of you who are watching it after the fact, thank you so much. It means the absolute world to me that you guys support me, and, you know, you guys keep me going. And I think that's it. I love you guys, and may the force be with you.